Please welcome the Strategic Director of the Grassroots Leadership Academy, Rachel Burgin.
How's everyone doing? How you feeling? You feeling good? Good. So I am the Grassroots Strategic Director for Americans for Our Prosperity Foundation's Grassroots Leadership Academy. But before that, I got involved in the political process at the age of 21 as a very impassioned grassroots kind of community engagement coordinator. Essentially, I was very passionate about what was going on, and I wanted to get as many of my friends and neighbors together to also care about what's going on in my community. And so through a series of events that happened, I ended up running and becoming elected to the legislature of the state of Florida, with being the youngest Republican woman ever to be elected in the state at that time at 26 years old. So I come to you today with a significant level of experience of the legislative process, but also from a standpoint of what happens when politics gets in the way of good things. And so I really want to talk about today the political divide that we have. As you've heard throughout the last 2 days, our divide is significant. And no matter if you're in New Hampshire to Arizona, Alaska to Florida, what divides us is very strong. And I would say that the division in our society right now is the largest issue that we are dealing with, and I think it will impact us the next 50 years if we don't deal with it now. And it transcends all individuals. It impacts older generations and younger generations. It impacts those who may be female and male. It knows no individual. And so what I would say is that there are significant divides that are really tearing apart communities, but they're actually that there are issues that need to be dealt with, and they won't be dealt with if we continue to be divided. There's a lot of things that divide us, but there are a lot of things that also should unite us. And that goes from the third grader who happens to really be struggling in school and needs more options. It could be the college student that doesn't feel as though they have the right to speak freely or have discourse on their college campus. It also goes to that individual who's just trying to start a business and they can't because of all the different things in their community that would limit their ability to do so. So there are lots of reasons that we should unite together, but it's kind of hard sometimes to focus on those things, and it's easier for us to focus and be frustrated on the division. But what I would tell you from visiting 36 states in the last 2 years and talking to activists like yourself, I would say that there really truly is more that unites us than honestly divides us. As you heard in many of the speeches today, it is our role as activists to be engaged in this process. And I will tell you that there is nothing more important than individuals like yourselves entrenching yourself in the middle of communities that might be divided and showing them a better way. Whether it's working with your neighbors to solve a community crisis, whether it's working with a lawmaker to maybe work on a piece of policy, whether it's working with your local food bank to make sure that there are people that have food in your community, there is more that we agree on than we don't. And so what I would tell you is that Americans for Prosperity Foundation has been working vigorously around the state just this year on teaching activists like yourself on how to do these things. There was a session earlier this year that was called Connecting Across the Spectrum. And that means that we are empowered as individuals to have those good quality conversations that actually bring people together instead of focusing on that level of discourse that's going on in our community. And last, I would say that as a lawmaker and a former lawmaker, there were often times which we were trying to, and I was trying to specifically work on these major problems, and yet I would often look around and wonder who was with me. I would be there often and feel like I was all alone fighting this battle in a capital with a state of 21 plus million people in it, and yet wondering, did anyone actually care? So if you leave with one thought today, I would just encourage you that There are individuals on the ground at Americans for Prosperity here in the state now that are working tirelessly every day to ensure that people have the tools and the tactics necessary to engage their lawmakers, engage in their community, and honestly leave our community a better place to live. And without those individuals tirelessly working and engaging, we're going to continue to be a divided nation without solutions and without true outcomes for serious problems within our society. And we're going to continue to divide households. We're going to continue to have very difficult Thanksgiving and Christmas dinners if we don't actually work on the things that unite us in solving the problems that we're dealing with. As I mentioned, we have 7 different offices around the entire state, and we, as GLA and the Grassroots Leadership Academy, come in on a pretty consistent basis to train activists on the best ways to engage in an effective manner in their community. We do things like tell people and teach people how to tell their stories, how to write a letter to the editor, how to engage with their lawmakers, but most importantly, how to solve our biggest crisis and our biggest problems today so that we can leave a better tomorrow for our children, our grandchildren, and future generations. So thank you so much for having me. And I would just say that if you leave with one thought, that is, what is your desire and what is your role after you leave here with all of the great information that you have. And I'm hoping that you will take the good things that you've learned here at this conference and go take action when you get home. Because if you don't, ask yourself the question, who will? Thank you.